Yeah, thank you.
Let's see if we can.
I got you when I saw you in room 10. That's what I figured. And she's in the back with the name. Oh.
All right. Mike's on there. Good evening, everyone. We've just been in closed session and we have nothing to report, no action to report out of closed session. Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Because I know we have a change.
Sure. For the record, we have Councilmember Berlant participating in the meeting. He's in teleconference, so he does not count towards the quorum and he will not be voting on any items tonight. Okay, so here we have Councilmember Amara. Present. Holmes.
Here.
Riddell Harris. Here. And Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Present. So let the record show we do have a quorum for the purposes of tonight's meeting with 4 council members present for the purposes of voting. All right, Ms. Riddell Harris, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda, mayor's commendations, proclamations, acknowledgements, and announcements. And it looks like, Madam Clerk, I only had 2 documents here.
Yes, the first one, we're going to have the police chief come up and introduce his new 2 new employees who were sworn in today.
All right, great. So Chief, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council members, Ryan Canan, Chief of Police here for the City of Auburn. And tonight I do have the opportunity to introduce 2 of our newest police officers, but both of them have ties back to the City of Auburn and specifically the Auburn Police Department. To my immediate left here is Jared Collins. And Jared, years ago, from 2014 to 2018, was one of our police explorers.
Oh.
So he was hired by the Placer County Sheriff's Office and they sponsored him through the academy where he worked in corrections with them and also patrol. And now he is lateral to us. So he is one of our newest officers. And then to his left, the name might sound familiar, but Zach Hopping. His ties is his father was a retired Sergeant Gary Hopping for us. So again, he's going to continue the law enforcement career for the family and carry that torch. So again, tonight, just introducing the 2 newest officers we're here, Jared and Zach. So thank you very much. You guys don't have to say anything, I promise. All right.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. All right, the next item on the agenda, Trisomy Awareness Month. And I know we have Ms. Danielle is in the audience. If you'd like to come up to the lectern and I'll go ahead and read this for the purposes of our record. Conforted, is that right? All right, wonderful. From Gigi's Playhouse. Yes. All right, well, I'm going to actually stand right here. There you go. And I'm going to read this before I present it to you. Whereas trisomy is a genetic disorder that presents with a person's cell of a single extra chromosome, yielding a total of 3 chromosomes instead of a pair. And as a type of, oh boy. Oh, good. Aneuploidy. Okay, maybe it's a word we're both learning here. Trisomy can occur with any of the 23 pairs of chromosomes. And the most common trisomies in newborns are trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome, trisomy 18, Edwards syndrome, and trisomy 13, Pantua syndrome. And local support groups, medical professions, and online communities offer education, encouragement, and counseling for those managing trisomy pregnancies or raising trisomy-affected children. And the month of March is observed to encourage all residents to increase their awareness of this genetic disorder throughout the United States. And now is the time for all Auburn residents to educate themselves on all forms of trisomy, participate in helping people with the developmental disabilities achieve their full potential, and support families currently experiencing trisomy. Now, therefore, I, Alice Dowden Calvillo, the mayor of Auburn, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim March 2023 is Trisomy Awareness Month in Auburn, California. And I will present this to you. So thank you so much. Do you want to say a word? Not right.
Hi, I'm from Gigi's Playhouse in Sacramento, and Gigi's Playhouse is a Down Syndrome Achievement Center. We are 99% volunteer run and offer services to participants with mostly Down syndrome, but not exclusively, pretty much from birth through adulthood. And they're all free services, every single one. Speech therapy, literacy tutoring, group programs, all free to our participants. So I would just invite all of you. If you ever want to come and tour Gigi's Playhouse, it's one of those places that you leave with a smile, guaranteed. I mean, I will personally guarantee it. And we always love volunteers and just education. So you're always welcome. We're right in Roseville on Douglas, well, Santa Clara, but off of Douglas, right by the freeway. So we're really accessible to Auburn. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All right. We have one more proclamation, and Matt Carducci, if you'll please come up to the lectern and receive this on behalf of Public Works. Good to see you, Matt. All right. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Auburn. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Auburn, California, to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest in understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Alice Dowden Calvillo, Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the Auburn City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 21st. Is that supposed to be March? Or is it supposed to be May? March, yes, March 21st, 27th, 23, as the National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies and activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and do recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. So thank you for accepting this on behalf of the City Public Works Department, Matt.
Thank you.
And you can even say a word if you'd like.
I appreciate all the acknowledgement and compliments from you guys. And
Well, you do a great job. We're very grateful,
Thank you.
especially with this last round of storm. I know they've been working overtime with all those crazy storms and the trees blowing over. So very appreciative of our Public Works Department. Next item, what I would like to do is take this opportunity to request that we adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Tom Johnson. He was a coach, a teacher, a principal, a vice principal with Placer High School and worked with the Placer Unified High School District. He recently passed away. And I know that the Hillman Foundation had put out a post on Facebook, and I meant to print that out, but I didn't bring it. But Tom Johnson had a very long career, 1972 to 1997 with the Placer High School Unified School District. He, with Jug Kovich, who was another, son of Hillman, founded the Hillman Foundation in 1989, and they were able to raise more than $890,000 to benefit the high school. So he did recently pass away. And so without objection, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting in his memory, and seeing none, that shall be the order. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Do we have any, I know that we, Madam Councilmember, you had a recusal on an item that was on consent. So on the agenda
Yes, I was
approval.
going to recuse myself from the consent agenda for item number 4.
So what I'm going to do under item number 4, I actually understood that there were some questions on that particular item. Madam City Manager, you and I didn't talk before this meeting. And so I was going to ask you if there were still some questions. Was there still an issue, a question on that item?
I did not hear anything further from when I advised you earlier today.
Okay, so I did hear from the city attorney that there was a question on that item. And so this is a little awkward and I apologize that we're doing this.
We do have Bernie Schroeder here who is representing the church group.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do at this point, though, is I'm gonna go ahead. We have the agenda approval. So at this point in time, since you are here, I didn't see you, Bernie, in the audience. I'm gonna go ahead and ask, are there any changes to the agenda, council?
No.
All right. Any public comment on the agenda itself? Hearing none, then we'll consider the agenda approved. Now we're going to go to consent item and we're going to go ahead and pull item number 4 off consent because City Councilwoman Amara would need to recuse herself, but I understand that there might be a question on this item as well. So that item is off the consent agenda. So now we have before us items 1, 2, 3. And are there any questions or concerns with the consent agenda as modified?
No.
No.
Any public comment on the consent agenda as modified? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the modified agenda?
I move we approve the agenda minus item number 4, the
Second.
consent agenda.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Riddell Harris. Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
All right, let the record show the consent agenda has been adopted as modified. All right, the next item on the agenda, what I'm going to do is we'll put item 4 right after public comment. We'll just put it under council business. So I'd like to open up public comment. Is there any general public comment? This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. We can't take action on said items, but we can defer them to staff for further review if necessary. And I know that Mr. Chin was here and please come up afterwards. Good evening.
Good evening, council member, mayor, office. I wanted to share with you the announcement of the FAM event, stands for Food, Art, and Music, a 3-way fundraiser on Saturday, June 10th at the Auburn Garden Theater from 3 to 7 p.m. It involves a 3-way fundraiser that includes the Auburn Winds, the Auburn Senior Center, and the DeWitt Theater Restoration, all very worthy nonprofits. And we are including all Auburn food vendors, Auburn artists from the Placer Art Studio Tour with tents, and the music will be done by all Auburn music ensembles. The Auburn Winds will be the feature one, the concert band, followed by the Auburn Winds Jazz Quintet, the Kukuleles, Auburn's ukulele women's group, and music and more. Talent showcase and LA artist Jason Vox that will conclude the musical presentation. The event is $10 and all proceeds will go to benefit the 3 nonprofits. Hopefully, with the support of the county, the city, Rotary, and the Chamber of Commerce, the event will become a very nice family annual event to help support 3 very needy nonprofits.
Excuse me, when you say Auburn, I'm just have
Uh-huh.
one quick one. When you say Auburn Gardens, do you mean the School Park Preserve back here?
Not the School Park Preserve, but Placer County's takeover of the amphitheater next to the library.
Oh,
So
great.
people get
Okay.
that mixed up. I
Yeah,
think there's another event going on at Preserve Park that night.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So they want it labeled Auburn Garden Theater, not Auburn Amphitheater, because people think it's,
Get confused. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. And thank you. I know that you and the other volunteers have been working very hard on this event. So,
I can send you the appropriate media.
yep, absolutely. Looking forward to that.
Great. Thank you.
All right, we have another individual here for general public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you very much. It's good to be on this side of the dais. My name is Jessica Trilla. First, I live in the Awali Heights neighborhood, and I was on a city council for about 4 years in Southern California. And I think I had more fun in Afghanistan, actually. Yeah, I still remember the endless bombardment of peanuts from the peanut gallery. So tonight I'm going to send some. I'll be kind though. The issue that I'm here to talk about is on Awali Avenue, a Racetrack Street heading up toward Awali Avenue. There's a section in front of the park that we believe, myself along with some other neighbors, that should be painted red. We've been talking for a little under a year to the traffic committee about this issue, but we feel that we've exhausted all options with the traffic committee. I do want to take this opportunity to thank Amy and also Menjel. They've been absolutely tremendous. Just the amount of communication has been great. But I think the next step is to take it to the council. So tonight, I would like to request that one of the council members agendize it for a future meeting, possibly the next or the following, to discuss this being painted red. I'll spare all the details, but it is too narrow for two vehicles.
What is the street? Can you,
It's
a
Racetrack
Wally
Street,
racetrack?
heading along the park there. There's a little section there right before Recreation Drive that's
And
that's
yeah, Madam Mayor, I think it's in front of the rest home. Is that correct?
correct.
That's
So
just
the rest
one
home,
side.
you won't win any friends from the rest home probably by painting it red, because they're clogging that up to where it's tremendously unsafe for two vehicles to pass, but you will win lots of hearts and minds. You will hear the cheers all the way from here to there when it's painted red from all the residents back there. So
And you've gone to the traffic committee and
we
they
have
don't agree
we're
that.
a little
it should
under
be-
your, everyone seems to be on the same page. It's just a question of making sure all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed. And I think I'll spare you all the details. The traffic committee has all the ammunition that I think would make a perfect agenda item to.
I'm just saying that the traffic committee disagrees with your recommendation.
No,
is
I-
to-
No.
No,
Wouldn't this normally come from them? I'm confused.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking, is that generally speaking, and Councilman Berlant is our representative on the traffic committee.
no.
No, he's not.
No, I heard the issue at the beginning, but I think Councilmember Holmes might have more up to date.
Yes, it has been discussed at the traffic committee and
Have you made a decision?
they have not made a vote yet.
I think,
Just one moment, please.
There was some talk about the speed on that particular area, and that the police department may document what the speed levels are.
So what I'd like to do at this point is, it sounds like there has not been a decision that's been made by the traffic committee yet. So I'd like to allow, as we normally would allow our committee to continue to complete its function. And we can talk with staff and figure out what exactly is going on before we put this on an agenda item before the council. We want to make sure that we're exhausting our efforts, because that's what we were asking. That's what we're asking folks to do. So.
Yeah, no, I understand that. The only thing I would like to add is that maybe we can have a date certain, because this has been going on for a long time. I've been approached probably 6 months ago with this very issue. And my response was go to the traffic committee. So maybe we should at least have a time where we can come back or have some sort of.
Well, I would
would-
just, I'd like to be able to defer to the traffic committee. I mean, I don't know when your next meeting is. I know you generally meet every 2 months. But perhaps we can have a discussion offline about that. I mean, clearly this has been elevated to the city council level, but I don't feel comfortable.
Could the
with
traffic,
scheduling it
could the
before
traffic
us.
committee give us an update on how it's going rather than having us make a decision? I mean, I'd like to know why it's.
What
taking
I'd
so
like to
long.
do is just allow the traffic committee to finish its work, because it sounds like they're still gathering some data.
Okay,
And then they'll make a recommendation, and it would come to, if they wanted to recommend that it be painted red, it would come to us for action. Correct? That's generally how the traffic
Yes,
committee.
yes.
So, so I'd like to just, I appreciate that this has been ongoing for some time. I think that, it's clear that, this has come before us now. So if we could be attentive to it, that we'd appreciate it very much.
Well, thank
Okay,
you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. All right. Is there any additional public comment?
Yes,
Yes. You have a public comment, Councilman, or did you want to do it under your council committee report?
no, public comment.
A public comment?
Yeah, yes. So, over a number of years, there's been some discussion about getting Auburn qualified as a certified local government. And there's been hesitancy on the part of the city council to move forward with that because of the lack of information in detail. And what I'm proposing is that that the HDRC at its next regular session have a briefing done by the people at the State Office of Historical Preservation as to what the goals are and of certified local government, and what the possible, contributions and other things that might affect the city of Auburn.
So with all due respect, Councilman, I know that just, it was a couple months ago, you had asked the council to make a direction to the HDRC to have a presentation on the certified local government. And the city council has already had this item come before it, and the city council decided not to pursue it. So it makes no sense to have the council direct the Historic Design Review Commission to review something that we've already said no to. So while I appreciate what you're asking, but we've already, as we've had this on the agenda, we talked about it and we said no. So it wouldn't make any sense for us then to go and direct a committee to take information on that. We shouldn't be directing based on the fact that we've already decided not to pursue the certified local government.
Yes, well, my concern is that the city council has not had the details as to what advantages or disadvantages certified local government would provide. And so I'm suggesting that the HDRC has not received a briefing. So what I'm suggesting is the HDRC get a full briefing from SHPO, and then the HDRC would make a recommendation, yes or no, to come to the city council.
And with all due respect, we did actually discuss this at length, the city council and the planning commission. I know Councilwoman Amara and I were on the commission together. And we talked about whether or not we were going to pursue this. And so at this point in time, again, the council's, I appreciate you feel that we haven't had sufficient information, but the council has taken action on this item. And so I think that bringing it up every couple of months, asking us to direct the committee to receive a presentation, I mean, we could do that on every time an item is not approved by the council or what have you. We're circumventing the process. So again, this is a comment under public comment. So, and we really shouldn't be having discussions back and forth. So I'm not going to discuss that anymore, but you've made your public comment and we're not taking any action on that because it is just a public comment. So I'm going to end that. Are there any additional public comments? Jonathan?
Mayor, if I may,
Mhm.
good evening, Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development Director. I want to put a plug in real quick for our form-based code project. We have our charrette series that's starting tomorrow. So that will be at Old Town Pizza at the fairgrounds at 3:30. Genevieve Marsh is going to put together the first of 3 charrettes that'll be going on. So the next one is April 11th from 3:30 to 6 they still are determining that location. And then the following one will be April 25th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional public comment? Madam Clerk, is there any public comment online?
There is not.
All right, thank you very much. I will hereby close public comment and move on to the next item, which is, we have item number 4, which was the approval of the use permit on the appeal from the Planning Commission for the church at 900 H Street. We've removed this item from consent. Madam Amara, I know you're recusing yourself. Yes, so we'll give the councilwoman a moment to step out of the room and we'll receive a presentation on this item. I just want to note for the purposes of this discussion today that this is not a public notice for the purposes of receiving new information, a public hearing. I'm sorry. This is not a public hearing for the purposes of receiving new information. Jonathan, go ahead and present the item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development. Once again, that's correct. The public portion of the meeting has been closed. So therefore tonight is just the deliberation on the resolution portion of this or decision on the resolution portion from the March 13th, 2023 meeting in which council held a public hearing that was duly notified. Members of the High Street Church, as well as the public, gave testimony at that meeting. At the conclusion of the hearing, council deliberated to a decision closing the public portion and approved the use with 10 conditions. Staff's recommendation is to approve the resolution authorizing a conditional use permit for the church. There was, just as a point of clarification, there was a concern that was raised yesterday, came to my attention. There was a unfortunate in the original conditions that were proposed by staff. One of the conditions was directly reflected of the parking standards that are contained in section 159 of the Auburn Municipal Code. Unfortunately, it limited the congregation size to 198 people. which is incorrect. It should have been based off of the parking standards, the occupancy of the actual structure. So what happened was the wording was changed to occupancy for that. Therefore allowing their congregation to be larger than 198 people, because conceivably they're going to have multiple, on that day, multiple services. If you think about today's environment, especially, you could have long distance, your congregation can be anywhere. So unfortunately, that was an oversight by staff's original staff report that was clarified in the new resolution to say that simply there's not going to be any more than 198 persons in the building at any given time. So they could still have multiple services. There could be a number of different things, but getting back to the essence of it, which goes back to 159 of the Auburn Municipal Code, which restricts parking for churches to one parking space per person. Now think about that. So that's a very generous standard by all intent. If you look at many of the other standards, we require 2 parking spaces just for an apartment, but for a church and those types of gathering types of events, you can have up to 6 people per space. So it's very generous. Most cars only have 5 seats in them. So if everybody's driving a minivan, then they might get all those people in there. But the standard is based off of the current existing parking structure there. Should the congregation in the future, or the applicant want to come back and amend that through, they have another parking agreement, they've acquired more property nearby for parking, then we would certainly entertain that and bring it right back to the planning commission in an amendment. So this concludes staff report, and I'd take any questions.
Questions for, just look, and I see Daniel there.
I have a
Yes.
quick one. So with all the work we're doing on the codes and probably land use and all the stuff that the general plan over the next 2 years, could that standard change, or is that a pretty standard way that parking is accounted for through cities all over the place?
The parking standard in the future could change, but not for this use. It's specifically granted under the current set of regulations.
Okay. Could they, if it changed, could they come back and try to get a,
Conceivably.
okay, under the new, okay, thank you.
And Councilman Holmes, do you have any questions?
No.
All right, because this is off consent, we'll accept public comment at this time. Is there any public comment on this item? No public comment. Okay. So with that said, am I to understand that there are no concerns with regards to the conditions that are before me today? So there is public comment.
Bernie Schroeder. I'm with the church on High Street. The item that came up that was just discussed, because there was a word change, it did concern us because there was maybe not a clarity that we do now have. So there was a great deal of effort on the part of staff, and I really appreciate that to clarify it with us and what it meant, because when an occupancy is set for a building, not only has it the parking component, but it also had health and safety. So the occupancy of that structure hadn't been taken into consideration. So we're very happy with the conditions, and we're very happy with the outcome on the hearing.
Okay, and I just want to clarify too that when our building official goes in to determine the occupancy from a health and safety perspective, it could be that number is a little bit lower, but we have to adhere to that.
Correct.
So I just wanna make
Because,
sure-
yeah, that's a different condition in the original and this.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure it's clear to everyone that if that number were to come in a little bit lower, that it's that number, it's the lower number, because we have to do that from a public safety perspective. So there are no concerns with the conditions that are before us. Okay, thank you
Correct.
very much. I appreciate your clarifying that. With that said, is there any additional public comment on this item? Hearing none, do we have a motion to, let me see here, we'll get the agenda out.
Yes, well, I will make a motion to approve the use permit on appeal from the planning commission for the church at 900 High Street.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, though, Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Sure. For the record, I'm also going to state that includes finding it exempt from CEQA. Councilmember Holmes,
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Aye. All right, let the record show that the motion has been adopted unanimously on a 3-0 or 3-0 and 1 recusal vote. And Chief, are you going to let the councilwoman, would you please let her know she can come in, please? Since you're right there by the door. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sorry that there was, I was getting some additional information at the last minute, so a little rocky, but we're good to go on that now. Next item on the agenda is the appointment, and we're going to wait for Madam Council Member. So the next item on the agenda under council business is the appointment of Historic Design Review Commissioner. We have two individuals that are before us today. We've had April McDonald Loomis and Linda LaRue who have applied for this particular position. Madam Clerk, were you going to present this item, or did
Yeah,
Madam
I
City
have a
Manager?
brief background on this item. The Historic Design Review Commission has one unscheduled vacancy that occurred when Councilmember Holmes was elected to City Council. This vacancy requires the commissioner to be a member of a historical society. This position was advertised in the Auburn Journal and 2 applications were received. Those applications for your review and appointment are in front of you. There is also a vacancy on the HDRC representing the Downtown Business Association, and I continue to work with the president of the DBA to get that position filled and hope to come back with an appointment soon. That completes my report. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I appreciate that. I don't know if, do we have the candidates in? We don't have the candidates
No.
here.
We do not.
So that makes it.
No, normally, don't the committees and commissions normally recommend the person that gets added? Don't they normally?
We normally do. The process is different on this one in that the council directly appoints both the planning commissioners and the HDRC members.
Oh, okay. HRC is different. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why. So it's a little bit different. So, I'll start. I'd like to say that I really appreciate both of these individuals, both women, stepping up and applying for this position. This is a critical position. It's very important to preserve the historical characters of our community and those buildings that are on the register for historic preservation. I personally have had an opportunity, I do know both the individuals, but I've worked extensively with Miss McDonald Loomis on Shack, actually, and she did serve as our city historian
Yes.
for quite a number of years. And I can't remember when she retired from that position of city historian, but she is a wealth of historic knowledge and has a deep passion for this is something. And I think that she would serve the city incredibly well. Both women, I think, would serve the city very well. But I would say that Miss McDonald Loomis has my support. I just open it up
and I-
for additional comments and questions. And yes.
Yeah, and what you just said, I agree that both women are very qualified. I'm just very happy that we have 2 people that are interested in this. And I know both of them, again, have a passion. And I personally know Linda LaRue, and I think she's been really working hard at trying to get herself involved in the city. And I honestly would like to see her be able to be involved in this capacity. I think she'd be excellent. And especially based on the fact that she has a lot of experience, knows a lot of people. She's had a business in town. So that would be who I'd like to support. Although, again, I think both of them are very qualified.
We're lucky
very
to have good
qualified.
candidates.
Absolutely.
It's a good problem, right?
Yes.
I'd like to let everyone have an opportunity, including Councilman Berlant, to comment. So Councilman Holmes?
Yes, well, as everybody knows, the HDRC is made up of the Planning Commission, 5 members, and then 4 additional members that are appointed to the HDRC. And as was previously mentioned, there's a Old Town Business Association representative, a Downtown Business Association representative. There is supposed to be an architect. I'm not sure about one of the members, whether she's an architect or not, but anyway, and a member of a historical society. And the April McDonald Loomis is the president of the Historical Society, so I'm very much supportive of her. And I want to thank Linda LaRue for applying, but since she's not a member of a historical society, she doesn't really qualify for this position.
I think she might have just joined. She may have joined one, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk.
That is correct. She joined about the same time that she submitted the application.
Okay, so she's a recent, a member, but she did join, but she.
What, yesterday?
It appears that she applied recently. She joined recently,
Okay.
January
Ah.
26th. Okay. Yes, Madam Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, again, like everyone said, great candidates. I know Linda LaRue personally, and she would be a great addition to getting some help on the city. I know she knows our city very well, and I really enjoy having her work on the many things she's done for the city already. It's a little bit hard to deny the experience that it seems that April McDonald has with writing multiple books about the history of Auburn. So it's tough. She's tough competition, though. I would really like to encourage Linda to be involved, and I think we can find a place for her. It's really, I think that April McDonald is really the one that has a long history of working on historical things in Auburn, and I think she would be just a little bit more qualified on the historical side than maybe Linda is. But I think I would like to find a spot for Linda to definitely help.
Councilman Berlant, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, I don't get a vote tonight in this decision, but I'll just share with the four of you. I echo all the comments, a lot of great knowledge and experience from both candidates. But clearly, April McDonald Loomis, being the president of the Historical Society for nearly 6 years, nearly a decade as our city historian. I really just think that experience is invaluable. And so I think it's very appropriate. Now, obviously, up until just now, we didn't all have the fact that since it's not on Linda's application, that she is a new member of the Historical Society. And so rather, while technically it sounds like eligible under our requirements for the member to be a member of the historical society, I just don't think it meets the spirit of it. And so I would urge that you guys tonight add April McDonald Loomis to the HDRC. And like Councilwoman Riddell Harris said, I definitely hope that Linda continues to find the right spot for her because she does have a lot of passion, a lot of good ideas. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment online besides Councilman Berlant?
We do not.
All right. Is there any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring this back to the council. What's the desire?
I will make a motion by resolution to appoint April McDonald Loomis to the Historic Design Review Commission.
All right.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Aye. Let the record show that the motion has been adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. We move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an informational item only, and this is our Fire Department Year-End Report. And thank you for our colored brochures here, so appreciate that. Good evening, Chief. I almost said good morning, but.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the kind words. For the record, Dave Spencer, your fire chief. The item before you tonight is our annual report on activities that have happened in the fire department. Oh, now we're good. Okay. All right. So remember that your fire department is focused on 3 core elements. That's the prevention, public education, and emergency response. This is the core of our mission and to protect our community with those as our foundation. This year has had some challenges, much like in previous years, but this year specifically, we've had some staffing challenges. We've had a fair amount of turnover within the organization. We've faced some aging equipment issues and certainly some increased calls for service. That being said, we've still been able to manage to handle an increase in calls for service. You can see that over the last several years, there is really a steadily increase in calls for service within this community. This was a breakdown, and you can see it a little more specific within your booklet that you have with regard to the types of calls that we respond to. We are an all-risk organization, meaning that it's not just firefighting, it is hazardous materials, it is medical aids, it is certainly weather events, rain, mud, debris flow, all of the things that go with emergency services. That being said, we have been able to do a good job at capturing the property saved and by contrast, the property lost as a result of hostile fires. And that's reflected on the report. With regard to prevention efforts, as you know, we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years trying to reduce the risk to this community. And we do that through fuel reduction. We do that through education. And this is just a snapshot of our engagement with the community with regard to complaint-driven parcels that were evaluated, total treated acres by homeowners. And bear in mind that particularly homeowners' acreage is not large in a lot of these areas that we're evaluating. We've got a 96 total compliance percentage, and we issued 182 burn permits this year. One of the things that we've been able to do this year is hire a community risk reduction manager. As you know, Lindsay Davidson has been doing a fantastic job for us in that position and continues to work closely with our community through public outreach, public education, and you can see some of those numbers. We've done 73 hours over the course of the year total with regard to education events. We participated with and being able to reach about 44,000 folks. We have some quite a bit of strong followers with our social media platforms and our messaging. And then I will tell you that bear in mind that we continue to increase in our cars for service, responding to about 2,300 calls for service this year. Again, we're highlighting our property saved versus property lost as a result. And the picture that you're looking at there is a fire that occurred in South Auburn off very close to Maidu. In this particular incident, the homeowner or occupant was away, which was very fortunate for them. They did have a family pet, a large dog that was inside the property. I will tell you that our firefighters were able to find and locate that dog, and that dog is doing just fine today.
Yeah.
So, we have seen some changes in our technology. We've worked on our closest resource concept. We've implemented our basically automatic vehicle locating program where the dispatch center can see where our different apparatuses, not just within the city of Auburn, but also surrounding areas in different jurisdictions, and respond the proper resource that is closest to the particular incident. And so that's been a dramatic change that we've seen here just recently. We've also been able to, through a grant, secure additional thermal imaging cameras. These cameras are critical for us when we get into a fire environment. You can imagine that in a fire environment, the smoke is dense and dark, and generally there's no power or lights. And so traditionally, as firefighters, when we search, we use our tactile skills, meaning that our hands, our feet, our tools, those types of things to find victims or find the seat of the fire. In the case of the thermal imaging camera, we're actually able to penetrate that smoke and actually get a visual. And the interesting thing is, you would think that you would be able to see, for example, if you had a body that was unconscious in a fire environment, that you would be able to see that clearly. But because it's a thermal imaging camera, what you see is all of the heat signatures, and it's the lack of heat signature that identifies the body. So in normal conditions and the normal ambient air of a 72-degree day, you would see that body in very contrasted colors, but that's not the case in the fire environment. So that camera is really critical for us and has done a tremendous job. The other device that you're looking at is a Lucas device, which we again captured via grants. This device actually has equated to a couple of calls for service where someone was not breathing and their heart was not beating. We used this device, and because of that and the efforts of our firefighters, those people actually were saved and actually walked out of the hospital without any deficits. And I will tell you that that is an amazing thing that doesn't normally happen. And so those are good things that happen with our technology. With regard to our firefighters, I want you to understand that your firefighters are well-trained. With a staff of 22 line staff, almost 6,000 hours of training, almost, well, 7 of our members have completed their undergraduate degree, which is fantastic. And we support that process. We've had a total of 62 courses completed. And so when we share that information, we get that feedback instantly from our community. Also keep in mind that this year we've had some mega fires, as we've seen over the past several years. The Six River Lightning Complex, the Mill Fire, the Mountain Fire, and certainly the Mosquito Fire, as you're well aware. This continues to be a challenge with us. I will take a moment to share with the audience and with this council that this year, even though we are spending a lot of time talking about the drought ending and that the reservoirs are full, it's important to recognize that the fuel moistures in the vegetation doesn't just respond in 1 year or 2 years of wetting rain. It takes several years for that fuel moisture to get back to its normal levels. What I'm trying to express to you is that what we will see this year when the snow is now melted, we will see a bumper crop of small, light, flashy fuels, the grasses and those types of things. And there will be an abundance of that. That will be the carriers of the fire. And so we are certainly not out of the woods, no pun intended, but the point is that we need to continue to be diligent, even with the tremendous amount of wetting rain that we've seen over the course of this year. My hope is that we will see another couple of years of this type of rain, and that will certainly make a dramatic difference. But 1 year will not. So it's really important to just bear that in mind. And with that, that concludes my comments with regard to our annual report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for the hard copy. Appreciate that as well. Councilman Berlant has indicated that he had a question, so I'd like to go to the councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for the report. Obviously, in our packet, there's a lot more information. First, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I will note that if you're wondering where I am, I'm at the National Fire Academy this week, representing the state of California. And so I think this report is very timely. But I was curious, to your first slide, you showed the staff turnover over the last year. And I know that that's a number somewhere in the ballpark of 100% turnover within the past year. What do you account that to? And what are your thoughts on how we address that?
Well, like anything, there's no single answer. There are a couple of things that I particularly think contribute to that. First of all, let me say that when we talk about staffing challenges, there are a lot of choices for folks to work in different organizations, some small, some large. And obviously, the type of experience that you get at different organizations varies from one department to another. That being said, I will tell you that one of the challenges that we see here, and certainly it is my opinion that our firefighters feel that as though compensation is a big issue for them. And so when they talk about comparing our organization to like organizations within the region, they'll point to Sac Metro or South Placer or other organizations where we have lost people too. And so it's really important to just make that a consideration as we move forward, trying to secure our staffing and make that a sound foundation for as we move forward. I think there are some elements that we can do internally to try to help that. The other challenge that really we face right at the moment is that we have promoted all of our internal people that have the skill sets and have the time and tenure to be able to promote up into a leadership role. That now we have exhausted that depth. So the bulk of our firefighters that have come on now are less than a year of experience. So that really handicaps us in being able to move them up into other opportunities or further advancement until they have enough time and experience and education to be able to fill those roles. So you can see that there's multiple components to this issue. And so we're going to continue to work internally to try to shore up whatever issues and shortcomings that we have internally. And we'll continue to try to train our people as best as we can. And the reality is that this is one of those things that's going to take time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Chief. And you know, it is exciting, the opportunities that you've been able to provide to many of our folks to be able to promote, and in some cases, you know, rather quickly. But to your comment, you know, while it may not be unusual to see people leave a small department for a large metropolitan area, especially where pay is good because of cost of living, to lose people to the region, to departments that are around us, you know, definitely should make all of us scratch our head a little bit and think through how we retain those firefighters. On your slide on the number of incidents, you know, it's kind of gone up and down, and obviously the COVID year with 2020 is an anomaly across the board. Curious if you have any thoughts on between 21 and 22, why we went up a little bit over 100.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty traditional milestone that I've seen over the course of my career. I think that just the fact that, you know, the population continues to grow, we continue to age, unlike in spite of our best efforts, myself included, it creates more calls for service. The other thing is that the environment that we live in, with the advent of EV vehicles, for example, certainly we see new types of incidents that occur as a result of that. And there are countless examples that I could provide for you for the different types of calls of service. The important thing is understand that the fire department, being all risk, is continue to ask to respond to whatever that type of incident is, be well trained and be able to handle it and mitigate it in a timely manner. And so back to your original question, I think we will continue to see an upward trend. I think it will, you know, ebb and flow to a small degree, but I think over the course of time, you will continue to see it increase. It's inevitable, and that happens within every jurisdiction.
Okay, no, thank you for that. On training, you gave us some good stats there. You know, just to remind everyone, it's only been a couple years since the city of Auburn joined CalJAC, the Joint Apprenticeship Committee. Like you, training and specifically apprenticeships, very important to me. Curious if you have any feedback back to us as a council of how that's going.
CalJAC is a great program, and I will tell you that we use that as part of our core-based training, and this will allow us for future opportunities to do some things. I was just talking to my training chief earlier today about some of the opportunities that we'll be able to do. If you don't recall, CalJAC will be able to provide us some reimbursement funds for training on a go forward. So right now, we really haven't done anything with that available funds because we want to make sure that we use it as best as we can. And sometimes it's better to wait a little bit for that fund to develop and then get the bang for the buck for the entire organization. So that's kind of where we're at right at the moment. And we've had several of our firefighters and engineers and even some captains term out, which is known as a journeyman designation, where they've reached the top of their training level. Excuse me. And so that's a result of the effort that the firefighters are putting into this program.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that. My last question for you is, this is an amazing report. It's clean, it's concise, a lot of good data points for us. Curious if you could just, you know, summarize, you know, what are the top items or issues for your goals for the department here in 2023?
Yeah, great question. So as you know, my focus is about reducing the risk to our community, and it's both hostile fire. It's also injury and illness to our community. And it's also ensuring that we do everything we can to reduce any of the risks that we experience. So those are the broader categories. With regard to reducing the risk to hostile or wildfire, we've spent a tremendous amount of time applying for grants this year. Hopefully we'll be able to secure at least one or more. That will make a significant difference for this community. With that, we'll continue to educate our community about their responsibility to protect not only the city, but their own parcel. So we'll be bringing forward in short order the town hall meetings that we've discussed at this council with regard to parcel inspections and the idea that everybody in the community needs to have some ownership in protecting this community. Those are the large scale things that we'll be working on. The small scale things will again continue to work on how our delivery model best serves our community in a timely fashion, specifically with regard to our highest percentage of calls, which are medical related. Those medical related calls are time sensitive because any time when we talk about it relates to death of the heart tissue or the brain tissue. And when you have death of the heart tissue or brain tissue, typically it really results in a fatality. And so we just recently celebrated our promotion and recognition ceremony. And so again, I'll tell this council that during our recognition ceremony, we had 4 events in which we recognized with service ribbons to our firefighters for the work that they did, where they literally found a patient who was not breathing and their heart was not beating, and they were able to apply the different technology and devices and life-saving measures. And all 4 of those patients had walked out of the hospital without any deficits. And what's important about that is that I'll tell you that I've been in this business for about 35 years now, and it is rare that you ever see that type of an outcome occur. And in one calendar year, it has occurred in this city with our firefighters 4 separate times, which is amazing. And I will tell you that I couldn't be prouder of the work that our firefighters do. You know, we do a great job at capturing the data with regard to property loss and property saved. And we monetize that because it's an easy number that we can look at. By comparison, when we talk about someone's life and their livelihood and the family that's affected by a fatal incident, it is really difficult to put a dollar figure to that. Although there is a way to do that over lifetime earnings, it doesn't capture the essence of what it is to lose a family member or loved one from a tragic accident or injury or disease. And that's the part that I want to get across, is how important it is, the work that we do in emergency services, because it truly does make a difference.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chief. And I completely agree. I know the mayor will probably have a little bit more on this too, but it was such an honor to be able to see you recognize not just the promotions, but as you just talked about, you know, our firefighters who saved people. And we all know our firefighters are heroes, but these are actual specific 4 people in our community who are alive today because of their heroism. And so just couldn't be prouder as well. And again, appreciate the report. Madam Mayor, that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. And yes, Councilman Berlant and I had the privilege of attending the ceremony. Was it last weekend or yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And incredibly proud of the men and women that serve with the Auburn Fire Department and all of their efforts. And it's incredible, like you said, that we had the opportunity to save 4 lives. And that's just, it's wonderful. Tremendous work. And thank you very much for the report. The question I also had was with regards to your top goals for 2023, but since you've already had an opportunity to answer that, I'll go ahead and defer. Councilwoman Riddell Harris, do you have any questions?
Sorry, just a quick one. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And I'm always in awe of what a great job you guys do serving the community. So thank you to you and all of your staff. We really appreciate it. In regards to when I first came here 2 years ago, there was a lot of talk about trying to get the second firehouse to be permanent and trying to get enough staff. And then we've had a lot of staffing issues. And based on kind of where we are with service calls and things, I know we could always do more, but do you feel like the 2 firehouses and the staff we have, as long as we can keep them in their place, is a right size for the size of Auburn? Do you feel like that's a good fit for us?
Yeah, I think if we go back in time and we look at the journey that we started on, the types of calls and the number of calls that we were responding to with one engine required a tremendous support on our partner agencies. So I will tell you that in this last year, there were, and I'll put it into context, and that is to say that over the course of the year, there were 250 plus times in which there were simultaneous calls for 911 services. Unfortunately, because of the staffing that we have, we're able to handle that without any problem. Now, that's for, let's say, the traditional medical aid. Now, tie that to a fire, a hostile fire in a residential structure. The fact that we now have two engines, you have essentially 6 minutes from the time of notification to be able to respond and get water on the seat of the fire before you have an event known as flashover. Flashover is when the superheated gases build into the structure and then ignite. Once it ignites, there is no possible way that a human can survive that environment. So with that, by only having one engine, we are not able to get water to the seat of the fire within that 6 minutes and prevent that event from happening. And that is, again, back to the whole core or essence of what we do. And so it's critical that that we're able to provide that service. So to answer your question, I do believe we're right sized. I know that we're having some challenges with regard to staffing, but the reality is that this particular community, the size of community and the number of calls that we run per day, and I shared this with the folks that were at the event the other day, that there are 6 to 10 times per day that our firefighters are responding code 3 through the city, standing in harm's way to provide the betterment of this community and to the members. And so I will certainly stand firmly to say I think we're in the right size.
Great. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or, thank you. All right.
I have a comment.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
well, I appreciate the report and very impressed with what you've done over this past year. And, you know, I think back when I was a child and it was an all volunteer fire department, when those fire bells went off, people were running all across town to get to a fire station, to get to a piece of equipment and so forth. And it certainly changed a great deal since then. So, thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yes, it was actually a volunteer fire department pretty much until 1998, when I first came on city council.
Yeah.
We worked to make it permanent, but I bet that was something to hear the bells and just see the people running like that.
Oh, yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any public comment on this item? Madam Clerk, any online? Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate it. And thank you for the report tonight. Keep up the great work. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for the kind words.
Fire department has our support. We'll give it. All right. So next item on the agenda, city manager report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a specific report this evening, but I would like to take the opportunity to just indicate that I'm coming up on the end of 4 months being here as your interim city manager. And during that time, I have really appreciated the support of the staff, all of the staff. And I'm not sure that we recognize every single staff person as much as we should. And I would like to do that tonight. Every single staff person that I have worked with, asked questions of, whatever, they have stepped up, they have been supportive, they've provided information, which has been very helpful to me in laying the groundwork for the new city manager who you will be hiring soon to come on board. And I just think that it is a tremendous asset to you as a city council to have a staff that has been as willing as they have been. One of the things that we have talked about, particularly Amy Lind, our city clerk, and I, is how we bring the employees more into the loop. And we're working toward beginning an employee newsletter that will go out periodically. And so we've had our preliminary discussions. We think it's an important way to get information out to employees that they may not otherwise be aware of or get. And it's just part of the effort of creating and building upon the team that we already have. So I just wanted to bring to your attention how appreciative I am of the employees and how beneficial they have been during my time here. I still have 2 more months. And I'm sure that we will continue to do that groundwork and legwork for the new manager coming on board. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have great staff, and we are fortunate here in the city of Auburn to have the caliber of staff that we have. So thank you for reminding us. We need to be reminded. I'll go ahead and start with you, Councilwoman Amara. Do you have anything you'd like to report under council reports, which is our next item on the agenda?
Nothing really that important, other than I did attend sustainability, but I've reported on that in the past. There is going to be a City Hall lawn project coming up on the agenda, I think the next council session. And other than that, nothing there. Oh, the Downtown Business Association will be meeting, have a general membership meeting Wednesday night. So I'll be going to that. And other than that, there's nothing else to really report right now.
Thank you. Councilwoman Riddell Harris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the opportunity to go to my first vector control meeting. Thank you, Sandy. Now I know more about mosquitoes and ticks. And there's also some other kinds of yellow jackets and fun things too that I've gotten to learn about. This mosquito season is predicted to be bad. If you have any standing water anywhere, dump it out if you can. If you can't, call. They're warming up the mosquito fish right now. So if anyone needs any kind of treatment of their yard or ponds or anything, they offer free services. And right now they're going around all over Lincoln and Roseville trying to treat some of those areas. That's where they tend to be the worst. Luckily, Auburn isn't the worst mosquitoes in the county, which is nice. But yeah, right now is the time that since all the rain is stopping, that we need to be making sure that we're emptying all that out. So that way we don't have more spread of diseases than we would like to have or normally have here. And then also I wanted to mention the branding effort that came to town last week or earlier this week. No, last week. Sorry, my weeks are blending together. I thought they did an excellent job of talking to lots of different members of our community, and they had a really great meeting. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of that. They're going to go and do a little bit of surveying and some more work, and then they'll come back to us, they said, around May or June with some results from that to work with us to kind of come up with some ideas. And then there's still a whole nother thing if we want to, there's a kind of a second phase, but we wanted to see what the first phase came out with first before and see if it's worth going through with the second phase. So all of that seems to be going really well. So that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Holmes.
Yes, well, I already gave a summary of the traffic committee meeting. And we are hopefully moving forward with that to get some of that taken care of. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that I am planning to go on the Cap to Cap trip next month. And I have initiated getting a meeting with the Bureau of Reclamation's headquarters in Washington, D.C. and also the Army Corps of Engineers about some projects that have been going on over the years, as well as meetings with our congressional delegation, Senator Feinstein and the other senator, and our new representative in Congress, as well as our old representative, Tom McClintock. So
thank you. I will go to just a moment, Councilman Berlant, but I was just going to say that Councilman Holmes is actually paying his way. I will be the city's designee, but the councilman and I are going to meet and talk about some of the meetings so we can make sure that we are on the same page and can participate in some of the same meetings.
I would never contradict you.
I know. But we can have meetings together, some of those meetings together, so we'll be working together to make sure that we are on the same page. We don't want to have to duplicate meetings is what I'm trying to say, that if he's scheduling a meeting with a congressman, we should do it together versus having separate ones. So we'll be talking offline, and then I'll report last, but go ahead, Councilman Berlant. Do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. For the Fire Safe Council met last week, and I'll just quickly put a plug. We are, I don't want to use the word desperately looking, but we really need some new members to help us kind of re-engage the council. We have several people who are stepping down, so at least one of them after several decades of service. And so if you're know anybody that has any interest within the city of Auburn, but even within Placer County outside, I'll just remind you, the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council not only covers the city of Auburn, but also the Bowman, Newcastle and Penryn areas. And so if you know anybody who lives in one of those four communities, Amy is working later this week to get the city of Auburn application for a representative to the Fire Safe Council. So again, if you know anybody good who is motivated, engaged, has the time to not only create some good ideas, but also to implement fire prevention efforts within our community, please sign up. I'll post that stuff, and I know Amy will as well, and it will be available on the City of Auburn's commissions and committees website. And then lastly, I'll just put a plug in. The Placer County Air Pollution Control District will be meeting in a somewhat special session in a couple weeks to start laying out kind of our strategic plan for the coming year. So obviously important to me are things related to wildfire and you know, how wildfire impacts our air quality, even some of the mitigation efforts, whether it be fuel reduction, biomass, prescribed burning, but wanted to at least make that known that if any of you have any thoughts on things that the district needs to be doing differently or continue to focus on, you know, please let me know over the next couple of weeks so I can include that in. And then lastly, as the representative to the Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs and Economic Development, one of my side responsibilities is to join Jackie Weston to MC our various parades. And I know, Madam Mayor, you were front and center riding in the fire engine, but the St. Patrick's Day Parade, it was the first being an officially sponsored Chamber of Commerce parade. It was very well attended, well received. They had a great dinner as well, though I didn't go. And I know Jackie must not be there because she would have reminded us that none of us went. But the bottom line is the Chamber did an amazing job for the first year of a new event, and look forward to future St. Patrick's Day parades to come. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And that was a really fun parade. And thanks again to the Auburn Hook and Ladder for giving me a lift in the 1943 fire engine. It was great, great fun. No doors, but you know, I went up in a helicopter with no doors, and that was a lot scarier than the fire engine, but it was a lot of fun. So great. Kudos to the Auburn Chamber again for another wonderful parade. Just had a couple things just very quickly to report out. Placer County Transportation Planning Agency met last week, and we did award Auburn the $492,955 in the rural surface transportation block grant monies. Those are the monies that we requested for our road improvements. So we did get the full funding for that. And we were also able to pay back our final payment with the STBG funds for the Nevada Street project. If you'll recall, that project came in over bid, and so we borrowed against future funds from the STGB account. And so we made our last payment. We had actually borrowed about almost $500,000, and we made our last payment with this go around of grant distribution. So we have paid that back as well. So good news on that end. Also, I just wanted to let the council know I did receive a call from Hoka, the shoe company. They're sponsors of Western States and also of the Canyons. And they are going to come to Auburn and do about a 10-minute film about Auburn using one of their endurance runners, a female, and really kind of highlighting the great things about Auburn and the Auburn area as well. And so they've been speaking to various individuals. And I spoke with the gentleman, he's actually from San Francisco, and talked about some of our historical, talked about the Joss House. They loved that whole concept of just something you wouldn't think about Auburn. But there are many other aspects of Auburn. And so looking forward to working with them further and having them work with the Placer Visitor Center as well. So they are doing a film on Auburn, and then also I think it's, let's see, Chamonix, because they have the UTMB, and then Thailand, which is the other equivalent to the Canyons, is in Thailand. So they're going to do a film for each of the 3 areas, and Auburn is first. So they'll
That's
be
cool.
here filming in just before the race, and then I think they'll have some coverage during the race as well. So around April 24th. So exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I just want to add, last year, Ultra also came to the race. Brian Ultra, Ultra shoes.
Oh, yeah.
So they came too. So anyway, we get a lot of sponsors that have come here that are
Yeah.
nationally known.
We get a lot of, I know there's a lot of shoe companies. What was just really neat in this instance is that Hoka is going to be funding this film that they're going to be putting out, and it'll be shown internationally. So it's, to give Auburn credit and our endurance capital of the world and so forth. But I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So, yep, it'll be a great event, and then the film will be fun too.
Very
So,
cool.
that really is concludes my reports for this evening. I know that we do need to recess back to closed session because we just have to touch up on a few things. So without objection, hearing none, we are recessed back to closed session. Thank you, everyone.